I'm live. Apparently, Get You Line Journey is live, and this is a long-awaited, long-anticipated vlog, a subject that I wanted to cover. It is live, so if somebody wants to give any reasonable opinion or share comments, they'll feel free to do so. It's open to you, those of you who want to rant. Those of you who may have an opposing view, it is welcome here, this forum. This subject matter is not necessarily something that I build my channel on or my career, if you will. This is really a personal I want to cover, and it's something that greatly affects and did affect Americans in the country and abroad. This is a subject I thought about for a long time: the funeral, death, and autopsy of Kamala Harris campaign. And I tell you where I kind of got the idea for this, the title for this. My aunt, Reverend Dr. A.R. Sconyers, was a bishop and pastor of a church, Travelers Rest Church, for I believe over 40 years. And so I had a chance to hear her preach several times, many times over those years. She was also someone I used to live with for a couple of years when I was in college. But I remember, obviously, when you grow up with a minister or you're around the church, you're certainly going to have your share of attending funerals. So I remember one particular funeral that she did. She said that basically the funeral is represented about how you lived your life. That was your funeral, not the church service that they may have for you that we call a funeral. But the funeral was actually the way that you conducted yourself while you were among the living. That is your funeral. So I relate that here to Kamala Harris and the way she conducted herself while she was a national political figure, especially as vice president for 4 years. And before that, she was a presidential candidate. So that's why I put the funeral first, because she had to conduct herself in a certain manner to get herself in position to be considered to run for that office. The death, I'm going to talk about. There are some things that Kamala Harris did or she allowed to be done in her name that I believe marked the death of her campaign and doomed it for that result on November 5th. And then the autopsy would be looking back at the results and what caused it and the effects of it within certain demographics or demon graphics, if you will, with the Democrats. So let's talk about, again, you're welcome here to give a comment. Depending on if you're interested, I can share a link where you can join the panel live here. But let's talk about Kamala Harris. she came on the national stage January 2019. Harris announced that she would run for president in the 2020 election. At the time, Harris was a U.S. Senator from California. In the debates, Harris was criticized by opponents over her record as Attorney General of California, including her past positions on marijuana, cash bail, and parole reform, and her alleged negligence in investigating police misconduct. During that campaign, she experienced stagnant polling and fundraising struggles. In November 2019, she finally began to think about withdrawing from the primaries in that next month, which was December of 2019. Famously, one of those famous, not interviews, but debates, she went against Tulsi Gabbard. And Tulsi Gabbard destroyed her in that debate. And that was the basis now where you have Tulsi Gabbard now in the cabinet of Donald Trump. And she actually left the Democratic Party and became a Republican, or switched her allegiance to the Republican Party. She's now in the cabinet. I think she's on the cabinet as a national security director or something like that. Well, Kamala Harris did horribly in that particular election. She did not win one state. So in March of 2020, she endorsed Joe Biden for president. And then a few months later, August 2020, Harris was chosen by Biden to be his running mate. After Biden and Harris won the general election, she became the first female vice president of the United States in 2021. I guess that's a feather in her cap that she's able to say she was the first. She wasn't the first one to run, but she was the first one to actually come out with a victory in the election. So later on, let's fast forward to 2024. I can say this about Kamala Harris. There might have been 3 or 4 occasions where she had to cast a tie-breaking vote in the Senate to pass a bill or pass legislation or approve something that the President Biden would sign. But outside of those instances where she was the tie-breaking vote, she was really invisible. She was very invisible and inconsequential to the lives of the everyday American. She was a yes person, and she admitted, herself later on that she basically just went along whatever Biden said. And so she didn't distinguish herself at all. But 2024, there was a disastrous presidential debate between Joe Biden and the current president, Donald Trump. And after that horrible performance, concerns grew about his age and fitness to serve a second term. I mean, he looked like he was senile and, didn't even know what planet he was on. And he actually, after that debate, people started to say, hey, I think this guy, he needs to get out of there because Trump is going to smash him, which he would have. He would have smashed him horribly. Now, I'm certain that there was some factions of the Democrats that didn't want Harris to replace Biden. I'm certain of that. But the fix was in kind of once Biden decided that he was not going to run again. Very quickly after he formally dropped out, he quickly endorsed her. And he basically made it clear that she was going to be the nominee, even though there may have been some objections by former President Obama and some of the other luminaries in the Democratic Party. He basically just handed the mantle to her. She didn't win any election. She didn't run for any election. So basically, the Democrats are basically just stuck with her. Now, in the beginning, after she announced that she would become the presumptive nominee, there was a lot of excitement. There was a lot about, oh, she brought the joy. There's joy in America now. You know, I remember that. And man, you look at the situation that happened after that, that was a big effing joke. Wasn't no joy. It was delusion and derangement, especially against Donald Trump. So, and I say here at this time, they would have had a much better campaign if they had installed Bernie Sanders in that position. Bernie Sanders had a much more robust presentation and credentials to run for president. Now, they, jacked him around when he ran against Hillary. But he would have been a much better choice overall to run versus her. But we're still talking about the funeral of Kamala Harris' campaign and how she conducted herself. It started out again with the so-called joy and elation. There was a lot of excitement in certain areas. Black women, it appeared that they were very excited about having her run. The Black females, the sororities, they seem to be all on board with supporting her with volunteers, money, very strong support. Black men, not so much, but certainly Black women were on the train, if you will, or the little engine that thought they could, but they ended up being proven to be not able to do it. But it was handed to her. And she did made a lot of appearances, campaign appearance. She was on TV quite a bit. Now, she did have one debate with Trump, one debate. And depending on what side of the fence you were on, some people say she won the debate. Some people, say that, Trump won, clearly. He was a clear win. But I remember watching that debate. It was nothing really so spectacular. Certainly, she certainly showed more energy than Biden, obviously because of age factor. And she brought some of that sister girl attitude to the race and to the interactions with Trump. But I look at just a couple of things that she, I would say, is one of the cornerstones of her campaign. Again, I'm talking about the funeral, which is how she conducted herself during the beginning of the campaign and throughout. One thing that there's several things that she seemed to hang her hat on. They put a lot of emphasis on abortion rights, the right to kill your baby. They were talking about eliminating the filibuster so they could restore the Roe versus Wade, which of course was struck down. They were very heavy on abortion and abortion rights. The other thing that she did cover somewhat was the economy, which you had to, because certain areas of groceries and things are very high, very elevated costs over the 4 years and at the time of the election. So always it's the economy stupid when it comes to national elections. And it should be that way for any election. She talked about taxes and basically saying wouldn't raise taxes for those earning less than $400,000 a year, which is a lot of money if you earn $400,000 a year. How many people earn that? And it was always the soak the rich, tax the rich, hatred of the rich. Roll back Trump's tax cuts for the wealthiest Americans. They were really highly critical of billionaires. They directed a lot of fire at Elon Musk. Wow, completely not even mentioning George Soros and other billionaires that support the Democrats. So I guess the ones that, you're a billionaire, if you support the Democrats or the Democrats, you're all right. So she was what they talking about, expanding the child tax credit, which that's only going to apply to a certain segment of people. Wouldn't help me, don't have no children. Who I would have used that credit for. Of course, I'm not working now, but most of my working time. So that was the thing on the economy. Another thing that was a big deal with immigration. And I believe this is definitely going to relate to the death and autopsy of Kamala Harris' campaign. Immigration. People overwhelmingly are against the policy that they let millions of illegal aliens come here and invade this country. There, you want to know where your Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security money went? It went to the illegal aliens. Illegal aliens are getting Social Security. They're getting help. They're getting Medicaid. They're getting Medicare. They're getting free food, free housing, free education. Yeah. People are pissed off about the immigration. And I believe that was also a major death causer for Kamala Harris' campaign. And but she hung her hat on it. I mean, they hung her hat on it. They were 10 toes down for letting all these illegal aliens come in here and invade America and steal all the billions of dollars, probably trillions of dollars from American taxpayers. That's a big one, immigration. But she chose to hang her hat on that. You didn't hear about guns that much. She always ran the Democrat line of ban assault weapons and all that, background checks for gun sales, stuff like that. Did I think that moved the needle for the election? No. Voting. Apparently, she was expressing support for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. This is one of those things where supposedly the Democrats, Biden, Harris, they want to support this, but I just think about now, you didn't see Al Green or any other Negro clown come on the floor of the Senate and the Congress during the State of the Union and protest about the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. You didn't see that. And, you know, they're going to say, well, we couldn't pass it because we didn't have the Congress. Well, you can say that a lot about a lot of things, that they can use that excuse that they didn't have a majority in the Congress. And basically it's presented as all the Republicans are against voting rights and all the Democrats are for voting rights. Anyway, you brought it up as an issue. You had a chance. And see, I hearken back to the first 2 years when Obama was the president. Why didn't they put forward a Voting Rights Act and Voting Rights Bill during the first 2 years of Obama's presidency? Always ask yourself that question. These things that they're talking about they wanted to do, why didn't they put it forward during the first 2 years of Obama's presidency when they had the majority in Congress? They actually could have had a filibuster-proof Senate. But I think you had the Democrats were just so nice and believed in bending over as long as the lubrication was there. They could have eliminated the filibuster and they could have enacted voting rights into law. They could have also enacted universal health care. They could have activated so many things way back 12 years ago. But they didn't do it. But they're going to put that excuse. Oh, the Republicans stopped us. Civil rights. Most of the civil rights was not about trying to help black people, defend black people. It was about LGBTQ. And that's what Obama was all about. He was all about lesbian and gay. Didn't do nothing for blacks. Not a damn thing. They didn't pass the George Floyd. You didn't see them clowning about the George Floyd hate crime bill. But they're so concerned about LGBT. And again, I guess they're going to say, well, we didn't do it because the Republicans stopped us. Well, again, this is an issue that one of the major issues that they hung their hat on. They dabbled in healthcare a little bit, wanted to cap certain prices of certain drugs and medications. I guess cap on out-of-pocket spending. Certain things they covered, like having Medicare cover in-home health care. Another thing they really hung their hat on was legal issues. They made a point every day. Donald Trump is a criminal. Donald Trump is a felon. You know, he's corrupt, he's evil, he's all of this. And they spent a lot of time on trying to prosecute Trump, put him in jail, keep him in court. And all of that turned out to be in vain because he was exonerated, or he suffered no damage from all of that. All that fire that they put against trying to take Trump down, and you see where that got him. You had the labor things with the raise the minimum wage, which that's a ridiculous thing. That hasn't been raised since 2009. And I guess 2009, I guess Obama was in office then. But that hasn't been done because people on both parties opposed. Now here's one. Harris wanted to copy off of Trump. Taxes on tips, eliminating them. Now I tell you, if Trump and the Republicans are able to pass that, that is big. That is very big. It would be very big now. It would have been very big for Black people because, well, that's what we made a lot. I said this before. My grandfather was a waiter, and a lot of his money that he made while raising a wife and 5 children, he was a waiter. So he received, I can hear him say now, how you make all that money? He said, know how. I'll never forget it. When he would say how he would make that money as a waiter. He said, know how. I'll never forget that. But just think of the people who, the waiters, waitresses, Uber drivers, and other professions where people in the barbershop, they get tips. Beauty salon, they get tips. Now, I mean, if they probably are not they're probably not reporting that, to be honest. But now they would be able to actually report everything. And if it's $1 million, they wouldn't pay any taxes on it. So that would be something. But she was basically just copying off from him for that. Copying off Trump. Paid family and medical leave. I don't know where that's going. Again, there are Republicans as well as Democrats who are on either side of that issue. But I won't spend a whole lot of time on that. So I was saying conclusion about the funeral and how Kamala Harris conducted herself. Number one, it was handed to her. She didn't earn it. She didn't face the voters. It was just gifted to her by Biden. So that was a problem. And there were certainly better candidates that they could have put forward than her. But she hung her hat, and the Democrats hung their hat on, I would say, abortion, number one, LGBTQ, immigration. And those, I would say, those are the big and legal issues, which is trying to prosecute Donald Trump. Those are the 4 cornerstones of their campaign: abortion, LGBTQ, immigration, and trying to take down Trump. So now I want to get into what I consider as the death of Kamala Harris' campaign and what caused it. I think part of that death was because of the way she conducted herself in the campaign. One thing that came up with her is she seemed to be sometimes not able to communicate well in English. Sometimes she actually appeared to be intoxicated, inebriated, or she would stumble over her words. They call it word salad. That was a problem. People had a problem with that. She couldn't speak clearly in some cases. Like I said, she had the sister girl attitude, but like I said, the communication was the problem. I think another thing that really helped her too is they hung their hat too heavy on persecution of Trump, LGBT, immigration. They hung their hat on that too strong. And another thing, this is another depth. The way she conducted her campaign, the campaign events, and I'm especially basically just related to Black people. She had Megan Thee Stallion, who was basically just a stripper, who presents like a whore stripper, dancing and speaking in support, shaking her booty on stage, trying to get Black people to vote for Harris. I think that put her in a bad light and put Black women in a bad light. That wasn't a good look. She had Cardi B, was another one of these people that, don't present well as far as, having a female representative trying to attract Black people to vote, especially Black women to vote for you. That was horrible. I think another thing that got her is we have her on videotape being interviewed about what she was going to do for Black people. And she was very nasty, and had that sister girl twisting, moving her neck saying, I'm not going to do nothing to benefit Black people now. So, if I'm Black and I'm sitting up there and somebody say, I ain't going to do nothing to benefit Black folks, how the hell you expect me to vote for you? Donald Trump never said that. Nothing like that. Matter of fact, Trump was more complimentary and has been more complimentary of Black people than Harris ever was. Ain't gonna do nothing for Black people now. I believe that was a death knell for her campaign, especially among Black men. Also, she faked, and this is Donald Trump brought this up. Bless his soul for that. The Black Association of Black Journalists did a convention in Chicago, and they invited Trump, and he showed, he appeared, he paid respect to Black people and the Black professionals and the Black press. He showed up and faced the people. Kamala Harris did not appear. So that was another disrespect of Black people. Okay? And Trump asked this simple question. Is Kamala Harris Black? I didn't know she was Black. That's what he basically said. I didn't know she was Black. Is she Black? She ain't been Black all this time. Now all of a sudden she Black. Very accurate statement by Trump. That was a death knell to Kamala Harris. You gonna come in my face and tell me I ain't gonna do nothing for your Black ass. And then on top of that, I'm going to fake and pretend that I'm Black. And a lot of Black people, especially Black men, did not go for the okie doke. And they would made that determination then. I'm not voting for her. Candace Owens did like a month-long series digging into her genealogy, proving that Kamala Harris was not Black. She was an Indian Hindu, no Black American in her at all. No direct Black ancestry. She was Indian and Hindu, not Black. And that was proven beyond a shadow of a doubt by Candace Owens. And again, that telling me ain't gonna do nothing for you Negroes, ain't gonna do nothing for your Black ass. Plus, I'm gonna pretend to be Black. Death knell for Kamala Harris. Death knell. The disrespect shown to Black people, Black women, with the Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B and them, Florilla, or whatever the hell her name is. She had, depending on prominent Black celebrities, Oprah. Oprah got millions of dollars to support Harris and have her on her show. So she basically paid for that. And the other big loss was she paid Beyonce, what, $5 million for an appearance in Texas. And Beyonce spoke, I think, less than 15 minutes. She did not perform any songs. So when the people there in Houston or Texas realized that they had basically been tricked, they've been bamboozled by Kamala Harris, and they came to see Beyonce, and she wasn't going to perform, they started walking out. As soon as they realized she was leaving the stage, people started walking out in mass. That was also a death, represented a death knell to Kamala Harris campaign. Another death knell, the disrespect of Black men by former President Obama, who he's one of the greatest devils ever, whoever occupied that office. Again, he killed or had something to do with killing our brother, Muammar Gaddafi. I'll never forgive him for that. His memory should be in eternal damnation for that. Also, it's very funny, under Obama's watch, he took down former Governor Rod Blagojevich. He also took down Jesse Jackson Jr., who was one of the best congressmen that Chicago ever had. It's very funny how some of the Black people were persecuted under Obama's reign and justice system. But he basically came on and he was very paternalistic and speaking to Black men like we used to little boys or something. And a whole thousands of Black men said, "Nigga, you crazy?" I mean, I'm giving it to you raw. That's basically what they said to him. Like, who the F do you think you are? Who the F do you think you are talking to Black men like we some boys, little boys or something? That was a big mistake. That was another death knell. Death knell to Kamala Harris campaign. Brought in Obama thinking that was going to help. It hurt you bad. Same thing with Michelle Obama. She didn't help you at all, Kamala. Yeah, death knell. Excuse me, y'all. I've been under the weather. I got my lemon here. It ain't cold. It ain't hot now, but let me drink it. So those things, I would say, really were the death of her campaigning. She was an effective communicator. Sometimes she, like I said, she came off as drunk, stumbling over words, outright lies, outright disrespect of black people. She was gone. I didn't get a chance to vote because I was in the Philippines. No way. Trump all the way. Glad he's there. So anyway, let's talk about the autopsy, which is the aftermath of the election November 5th, where Kamala Harris was destroyed in that election by Donald Trump. Let me see if I have some of the things here. I think she lost. She had only 226 electoral votes. I think Trump had 312. She lost the popular vote. First time a Democrat has lost a popular vote in maybe 20 years plus. She, Diamond, no, she's not a black American. She's not black, period. Let's stop that. She's not black, period. She lost all the swing states, all the 7 so-called swing states. They call them swing states because they believe that it could go either way in a national election. She lost all of those states, lost the popular vote, lost every state. Now, I think she was able to get the support of her basic supporting base, which is black people. I think black women gave her over 90%, and even men, black men, maybe even giving up 83%. But that is significant reduction. 83%, that means a lot of black men did not vote for Kamala. They did not. She was destroyed. And I'll tell you, the main reason she was destroyed is she wanted to continue to support the illegal alien invasion of America. She was 10 toes down for that. She was 10 toes down for abortion, 10 toes down for LGBTQ. That's the losing hand. The losing hand. And then people didn't go for you talking about what Trump is a criminal and all this stuff. People didn't buy that. The real criminal is being shown to be the Democrats. And it really became evident after the election. And again, we talk about the autopsy. We talk about after the election. But one thing that was hanging out there was, would Biden give a lot of pardons out? And he did. He pardoned his son. He pardoned his brother, sister-in-law, children, Hunter Biden. He pardoned a lot of people who were on the January 6th commission, who was basically a witch hunt against Donald Trump. He pardoned Dr. Fauci, who was involved in the COVID-19 scandal. So, believe me, if he had done that before the election, she would have lost by even more of a landslide. But there you have it, though, really. The funeral, the way she conducted herself, the death, I gave you 3 or 4 blatant major examples of why they spelled the death of her campaign and the autopsy. And now I can tell you that she's basically disappeared from the media. She's not even, you don't see Kamala Harris on no TV or nothing. Oh, let me throw this in. This show called The View. with Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, a couple other people, and Navarro, Sonny Hostin. Horrible. They used to love Trump, and then once he ran for president, they hate him all of a sudden. They were trying to justify and defend the indefensible conduct and policies of Kamala Harris and Biden. They told a lot of lies. They had to threaten legal action against them for, I guess, libel and slander or whatever. Terrible. That was a terrible show. That was a lot. That didn't help her at all. And the media was shown to be evil deceivers. And it was obvious. Another thing, let me just bring this up, which really killed them. People do not get their news off of the nightly network news and the major news, quote unquote, news networks anymore, like CNN and MFDNC. They don't follow it anymore. People have turned to social media, Facebook, Instagram, X, which used to be Twitter. It's owned by Elon Musk, who they hate. They put a lot of hate against Elon Musk, even to this day. They're trying to actually firebombing his dealerships and shooting guns now. But like I said, the funeral, the death, very well laid out here, and the autopsy. What lies ahead for the Democrats? I consider the Democrats to be dead as a party, especially on a national election. I don't see them winning another national election in the next 12 years or even longer. Most especially if Trump be successful in rooting out waste, fraud, and abuse, get these illegal aliens out of America who are taking black jobs. This is another thing that Trump said. These illegals are taking black jobs. And they did. And they are. A lot of jobs that should have gone to black people, they didn't get because these illegal aliens are in America. Yes, they took black jobs. Yes, they did. And that was another thing, a supportive thing that Trump said that supported black people. He, like I said, he was more supportive of black people than Kamala Harris. Hands down. And since he's been president, he's probably the first president that I've heard of that acknowledged the citizenship of black descendants of slaves. He said the 14th Amendment was for black descendants of slaves only, directly supporting black people's citizenship, while the Democrats is trying to take away black people's citizenship and put other people instead or in place of black people. I told you that wicked devil. I'm going to find that tape. I got it. I'm going to find it. I might add it to this. Biden said, you need to start working with the Hispanics and start getting away from black folks, because black folks are not going to be, basically saying black folks are going to be irrelevant. So you better start making your alliances with Hispanics and the illegals, because blacks is going to be, they're going to be eradicated, basically what he's saying. Why would I, as a black man or black person, want to support someone who openly said that? They trying to call Trump and Elon Musk, Hitler, when the Hitler is Joe Biden, we need to replace black folks. You talk about Hitler, let's talk about Rahm Emanuel, who was a former mayor of Chicago, who actually had an active program to delete and diminish the black population of Chicago, running us out of Chicago, and he was successful. Tearing down schools, well, first tearing down housing. You tear down housing, the children don't have anywhere to live. So it's going to be less children. So then that gives you an excuse to close the schools down. You reduce the jobs, which is taking over. The black job was taken over by the damn illegals. So then you can't support your family. It's all that was Hitler, Rahm Emanuel. And even before him, Mayor Daley. That was Hitler. That was the real Hitler. And I know because I was there in Chicago during all those years. And hopefully this next election, we're going to flip red and flip Republican for the national election and get rid of these Democrats out of here. Because they are no good for us. But as I conclude here, this is one of my slogans. America being a sucker is cool to those who benefit. Black people being killed, persecuted, suffering is cool to those who feel they benefit or those that don't like black people and love to see us be killed and hurt. A lot of you sick bastards out there. We not, no question that that's out there. So I conclude, again, America being a sucker is cool to those who benefit. Black people suffering is cool to many of you out there. So glad I got this over with. Kamala Harris, they talk about her running for president again. Please let her run for president again. So we can guarantee we're going to have Republicans in office for the next 12 years. They can't do no better than that. And she going to actually come back and present herself again. She's been proving she's not black. She's not going to be able to have that to hang her hat on. Trump is going to be proven right and correct on immigration and other things. And she thinks she's going to run against that. She better be trying to maybe, I don't think she can even run for governor of California. But again, I don't care. She's irrelevant for me. And she ain't shit. Thank you all for listening. And I greet you in peace. This is the end. Ramadan is just ended. So Ramadan Mubarak, Eid Mubarak, the end of Ramadan. So also glad to hear the successful procedure for Minister Farrakhan, who had medical procedure here lately. He's recovering. Convalescing there, so hope to hear him back on the scene pretty soon. But thank you all for joining this special presentation of Geechee Lion's journey. Thank you, Diamond. Again, keep in touch. Hopefully you'll be, if you are coming to the Philippines, let's stay in touch. You can always contact me. Anybody who wants to contact me can always send me an email, geecheelionsjourney@gmail.com. All right? Please do that. Thank you a lot. Reach in peace.